That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, let's get this going. Let's round up our top 24 running backs. Now, I'll say, guys, if you're watching this video, you've never seen the channel before. Okay, you have some catching up to do. Okay, we have already ranked the top 18 running backs. Now, I know a lot of other people, they would go through, they would just talk about all 24 guys. They would do it in one video, and it'd be really short and concise. And I understand that's probably what would be better for the YouTube algorithm. That's probably what would be better for a YouTube channel. But what I prefer doing is I prefer diving deep and actually having a conversation about the pros and cons of each player. So to do so, we have to make the videos a little longer. We have to do it in 6-player cuts. So yeah, we're actually having this as a playlist. So you can go through, you can watch all of these in order if you want in-depth analysis of our top 24 running backs. I'll give you a recap of our top 18 before we get into our running back 19, which we'll be kicking it off this video with. But of course, guys, before we do that, please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, letting me know what you think is wrong about our rankings, what you would actually go through and change. And also, let me remind everyone, this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you want a full list of our entire 2021 rankings, you want our 2021 draft guide with hundreds and hundreds of pages, as well as our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, guys, go deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy. And if you use promo code FLOCK, you get those draft guides and you get a $25 bonus. Now, to go along with this, we are live streaming every single night, going through doing at least 3 to 4 drafts every single night on Underdog Fantasy. So if you're subscribed to the channel, you hit that bell next to it, you can come out and you can hop in some drafts with us. And yeah, that should be it for the announcements. Let's pull up our former list of our top 18 running backs. And of course, let's just start it from the very top with Christian McCaffrey at 1, Dalvin Cook at 2, Alvin Kamara at 3, Barkley at 4, Derrick Henry at 5, Zeke, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, David Montgomery, and Chris Carson. So I believe we have talked about each one of those running backs in depth. So now we can start it off with our running back 19 in Miles Sanders. Okay, so here with Miles Sanders, what's really funny is at the beginning of this offseason, when we kind of went through, we already had our rankings kind of set, knowing where we wanted players overall. I was labeling Miles Sanders as an avoid in fantasy drafts. We did so because you actually look at the Philadelphia Eagles situation, and very similar to what you have with J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore. While yes, you love those rushing quarterbacks as guys that are going to be able to increase the efficiency of the running back in their backfield, where with the Miles Sanders, you're going to be expecting a high yards per carry, given the fact that with Jalen Hurts in the game, when Jalen Hurts goes to hand the ball off, it's not like the opposing linebackers can just crash in on Miles Sanders going, okay, this is either a play action or it's a Miles Sanders run. There's no in between. Whereas what you actually find in Baltimore over the past few years is J.K. Dobbins leading the NFL in yards per carry last year, Gus Edwards being a top 10 running back in yards per carry as well. And it's not because those guys are the best and another top 10 running back in the NFL. While they're both great running backs, a big reason is those rushing quarterbacks drive up the efficiency of those running backs because how it has to change defensive schemes when they are guarding against the run. That's why you see Baltimore be so run heavy, because it's very effective to do so. Now, on the flip side of this, I will say, just because the efficiency slightly goes up, that does not mean that it's a good thing for the running back in fantasy. Because in particular, a PPR format, you have to be worried about what you're going to be finding in terms of the targets a running back gets out of the backfield, as well as the usage in the red zone that they have. So here with the Miles Sanders, this is a running back that, yeah, I mean, you should see him be a lot more efficient on a per touch basis with Jalen Hurts in there compared to Carson Wentz. But a bad thing is, with Jalen Hurts, it's not going to be the same type of situation where, okay, he goes through his progressions. If his first option, his second option isn't there, then all of a sudden he just dumps the ball off to Miles Sanders, because he always has the option to actually go out there and rush for the first down. So you're going to be expecting his targets to take a slight decline this year. And at the same time, you have to be concerned about Jalen Hurts possibly stealing some usage and stealing some touchdowns at the goal line. Now, I will say those are two main concerns. Now, what I am not concerned with, what I think so many people are getting wrong, is the investment into Kenneth Gainwell. So I understand, guys, Kenneth Gainwell was a running back that a lot of people, specifically in the Dynasty Fantasy Football community, liked going into the NFL draft. And I was intrigued by Gainwell as well. I mean, I was looking at that as a running back that was a great pass catching option. And he shared a field with Antonio Gibson back in 2019. So we didn't necessarily know exactly what he was going to be doing. So with Gainwell, I was very intrigued with him going into the NFL draft. But he falls all the way to the 5th round to the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you look at historical hit rates, guys, I mean, those running backs that go in the 5th round, they are literally nothing. You don't have to worry about those players whatsoever for fantasy football drafts. So with Gainwell, yes, he was intriguing, but his team investment doesn't necessarily label him as a running back that's even going to be a part of a committee. I think that Gainwell is purely almost a handcuff running back at this point. I think that actually he's going to compete with that role with Boston Scott, the same role that Boston Scott had last year. But like we had already said, I don't think you necessarily are drafting the running back for the Philadelphia Eagles to be the guy catching balls out of the backfield, because I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be dumping the ball off that often anyway. And also, I will say, it's not likely, but at least there's an outside chance that the Philadelphia Eagles do trade for Deshaun Watson. And please let me know in the comment section where y'all would be ranking Miles Sanders if somehow the Eagles pulled off a trade for Watson. Because I think we go through our rankings, he easily jumps Chris Carson. He jumps David Montgomery. He jumps, I want to say he jumps J.K. Dobbins. I think he jumps DeAndre Swift. I think he would be in the range of like early 3rd, late 2nd round pick if they got Deshaun Watson, just because the overall offense would be so much better. But please, please, please let me know what y'all are thinking about that. And yeah, let's move over to our next running back. Another player that I thought we were going to be way lower on compared to consensus. I mean, if y'all remember, in those underdog drafts that people were doing about 2-3 months ago, it was crazy that Josh Jacobs was a 3rd round draft pick. We were looking at that and I was going, that's one of the worst picks you can ever make. Why would you ever take Josh Jacobs over an Allen Robinson? Why would you ever take him over a Robert Woods, a Chris Godwin? The opportunity cost to take Josh Jacobs there after Kenyon Drake signed. Kenyon Drake gets $11 million guaranteed. I'm looking at it going, okay, that's one of the worst picks in fantasy. Well, now the conversation around Josh Jacobs has completely changed, where over the past 2 months, a lot of people have finally started to realize that that contract that Las Vegas decided to give Kenyon Drake is actually extremely important, and you have to be considering it with where you're going to be ranking Josh Jacobs this year. Because Kenyon Drake, while yes, he gets $11 million guaranteed, which guys, you don't have to tell me that he's going to have a role in this offense. I was the first person screaming that for I don't know how long now. And that's why we were thinking that Josh Jacobs was a horrendous pick in the middle of the 3rd round. But now I think we've actually overcorrected slightly. Because at the end of the day, Josh Jacobs is a 23-year-old former 1st round pick at running back that at age 21, his rookie year, he came out and he was a high-end running back 2 on a points per game basis. And going into his sophomore year at 22 years old, he was actually the running back 13 in points per game. So you look at those two things and you understand, well, yes, Josh Jacobs is going to have a limited role in the passing game, which is why we didn't want to draft him in the 3rd round, which is why I was screaming to be drafting the wide receivers instead. He has now fallen to a point where he's consistently going in the 5th round of fantasy drafts, where the opportunity cost is a night and day difference. I mean, you went from having to draft Josh Jacobs over Allen Robinson, and now the question that a lot of people are facing themselves, especially in those underdog drafts that we're doing every night. I mean, if you're coming out to the live streams every night, you're seeing that I'm drafting Josh Jacobs in a ton of drafts, because the conversation around Jacobs went from, do you want Josh Jacobs or do you want Allen Robinson, to where we're now at a point where it's, do you want Josh Jacobs or do you want Odell Beckham Jr.? Do you want Josh Jacobs or do you want Robbie Anderson? And it's a night and day difference. Nothing has changed with Jacobs over the past 2 months after the Drake signing. So I think now we went from being way lower on Jacobs compared to consensus. And because consensus was way up here, now consensus has dropped to a point where I think now I'm sitting here. I've always hated Josh Jacobs. I was screaming to fade him last year in the 1st round. I was screaming at the beginning of the offseason not to be drafting him in the 3rd. And I'm sitting here, feel like I'm a madman. I got called a Josh Jacobs truther in the live stream the other night, and I almost wanted to throw up because I don't like Josh Jacobs, but I like the fact that, when they're in the red zone. I mean, you look at 2020, this is a running back that had 4.3 rushes per game inside his 20-yard line. That led the NFL. I mean, he has one of the safest goal line roles that you could ever find. And I understand this offensive line's getting slightly worse. I understand Kenyon Drake coming in to take targets, but there were already targets leaving this offense with Devontae Booker gone, as well as you think that Jalen Richard probably loses his role entirely to Kenyon Drake. So I think people have overcorrected with Josh Jacobs, only a month older than Najee Harris. Draft Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is going to be our running back 20. And now coming in at our running back 21, we're going to have another guy that I love. I always have hated these low-end running back 2s. I've always been the guy fading them and instead drafting wide receivers. But Travis Etienne, another one of my favorite draft day targets here. Okay, so if you look at our rankings, we actually have Travis Etienne ranked as our overall 46th player. Etienne rarely ever goes that high in these underdog drafts that we're doing every night. I mean, I'm drafting Travis Etienne at the beginning of the 5th round a lot. If you could start a draft off and go Christian McCaffrey at the 101, then go wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver with your next 3 picks and still get Travis Etienne at the beginning of the 5th. I mean, talk about a dream start. And here with Travis Etienne, trust me, guys, I understand you're not breaking any news to me down in the comment section that James Robinson is still there. Yes, James Robinson, a running back that was a traditional workhorse guy in 2020. Now, what we have to understand is that was with a completely different coaching staff. Now, all of a sudden, you have Urban Meyer coming in. I don't necessarily know what to think about Urban Meyer right away, but what I do know to think about is the fact that he put his stamp of approval on getting Travis Etienne in the 1st round. And we have seen time and time and time again. People are about to realize it with Denzel Mims in New York this year. People are going to have to realize it with James Robinson in Jacksonville, that coaches coming in, they have no allegiance to the players that were already there. Now, of course, they have to say nice things about them in press conferences. They have to go out and tell the fans, and they have to tell the locker room, these veteran guys that have been producing for this team, that have been coming out and showing up, clocking in, clocking out every single day since before I was here. Yes, I have to pay you my respect. I have to, for whatever reason, say that James Robinson is going to be seeing a significant role on this offense while Travis Etienne's just the pass-catching running back. That's not the case at all. What we're going to see is, I think we're going to see a very similar split to where, yes, both running backs are going to be used in this game, but it's going to be the exact same of what you had with Green Bay over the past few years, where Jamal Williams, yes, Jamal Williams is getting his role week in and week out. Jamal Williams is getting his 12, 13 carries, but those are going to be 12, 13 carries between the 20-yard lines, and those touches don't matter at all for fantasy. Where Travis Etienne, a.k.a. Aaron Jones, a.k.a. Alvin Kamara, a.k.a. DeAndre Swift, they're all the same running back. Some are a little bit better than others, but regardless, they're all guys getting targets out of the backfield, getting usage in the red zone, getting every valuable touch in their respective backfields that translates directly over to fantasy points. Because riddle me this, okay, guys, if Travis Etienne loses out on 11, 12 carries a game to James Robinson, and 11 of those 12 carries are in the 20-yard line, and all of a sudden Robinson goes, okay, let's give him 5 yards per carry. Let's say that he's going to be a great running back, and he's taking 12 carries a game. So you're telling me James Robinson's getting 6 total fantasy points per game? Oh, but what if James Robinson gets a target or 2 out of the backfield? Okay, James Robinson's dropping 10, 11 points a game in fantasy drafts, where on the other hand, a Travis Etienne, maybe he only sees the same type of usage. Maybe he only sees 12 carries a game as well. But the difference is, what happens when he sees 6 targets a game? What happens when Travis Etienne goes out and gets 6 targets a game? All of a sudden, he catches 5 of those for 40 receiving yards. He has the same line with his rushing that you would see from James Robinson. And all of a sudden, Travis Etienne, because how fantasy football is kind of broken towards those pass-catching running backs, he instead has an extremely valuable role in this offense. So yeah, give me Travis Etienne every single day of the week. Now, a running back that I know a lot of people are going to want to see here is going to be Mike Davis. I am going to say, nope, not doing it. Instead, we're going to be extremely aggressive on another rookie running back in Javontae Williams. So a big thing with Javontae Williams is, I understand, guys, the coaching staff right now is saying Melvin Gordon is the starting running back. And of course, they're saying Melvin Gordon is the starting running back. I mean, think about it like this. This is what I said in a live stream the other night. But what would happen in a real life job if you actually have just someone that's an accountant every single day going into work? He's going into work, punching in, punching out, and he's been with the company for 5 years now. Then all of a sudden, you get a college graduate coming in. College graduate is way better than that accountant in every single way. He's getting paid half that price. Can you just come in and say, hey, man, John, thank you so much for coming to work out the past decade. I really appreciate everything that you've given this company, but we're just letting you go. Bye. We don't need you anymore. We got this guy. He's never even stepped in the office before. He doesn't need to step in the office. We already know that he's better than you. See ya. And really, it came out of nowhere. Whereas that's not going to happen. Melvin Gordon, in this case, is the old accountant. So what's happening instead is you have Javontae Williams coming in, and instead they're telling the accountant, hey man, we're bringing in some guy to help you out with your job a little bit. Y'all are just going to be working together. Can you show them how things are handled as an NFL professional? And then by the time we get to week 6, you have in no doubt in your mind that Javontae Williams is the better running back. And Javontae Williams is seeing, I don't want to say almost every touch in that backfield, but a significant amount of touches. And a big thing that we also have to focus in on is Denver. I don't know how committed they are to being competitive this year when they don't go out there and they don't address the quarterback position whatsoever. And they're rolling in there with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock right now. So possibly this is a team that doesn't necessarily look to pay some massive contract to Melvin Gordon. So a big thing that they want to do is if they want to have any shot at trading Melvin Gordon whatsoever and getting that contract off the books after trading up to draft Javontae Williams in the top 40 picks in the NFL draft, maybe they get some positive buzz about Melvin Gordon going, saying he's their starting running back. So all of a sudden, in a week, they can trade him to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, of course, I'm not saying that's guaranteed, but I'm saying, guys, do not fall for the coaching staff in training camp. Do not fall for their coach speak. We already saw what the team thinks about Javontae Williams. We already saw what the team thinks about Melvin Gordon. They think about Melvin Gordon that they don't have the running back situation solved where they can go up and they can trade up in the top 40 picks to bring in Javontae Williams. Every time that happens, that running back takes the job halfway through the year. So Javontae Williams is going to be the guy that you want in Denver, and I'm going to be aggressive in ranking him. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be saying, okay, well, Mason, it's about that time. Can we put Mike Davis in here? No, Mike Davis isn't even going to make the top 24. Maybe we make a video on Mike Davis talking about how much I do not like Mike Davis this year. Please let me know if y'all want that video in the comment section. Instead, let's talk about someone that I think does have upside instead with Kareem Hunt. Okay, so a big thing with Kareem Hunt here is, guys, I understand, yes, we actually had a small sample with Nick Chubb missing time last year, and Hunt didn't necessarily produce as a top 5 running back like we thought. Now, I will say now that I am telling you, if Nick Chubb goes down to the same injury that Cam Akers had with the torn Achilles, and the Cleveland Browns go into the season with Kareem Hunt as their feature running back, I would be drafting Kareem Hunt in the first round of every single draft for the end of time. I mean, this would be a running back that I automatically assume comes in and he slides into the same tier with the Derrick Henry, the Ezekiel Elliott, the Austin Eckler. I mean, he's right up there in being a first round pick. He has that type of upside. We saw his rookie year. We saw his sophomore year. Both seasons, he actually was a top 10 running back in points per game. He actually led the NFL. Kareem Hunt has a season on the record where he led the NFL in rushing at an extremely young age. So don't come out here and tell me that Kareem Hunt can't do it, because now he's playing in an offensive environment where, yes, Nick Chubb, a way better running back than Kareem Hunt. Nobody's going to be denying that. Nick Chubb is the guy there. They're going to be splitting this backfield 60-40, how they have done the past season and a half. But a big thing is Kareem Hunt, I actually think, unlike James Robinson, can get enough usage in terms of the valuable touches he is seeing to be startable even when you actually have Nick Chubb healthy. And that's because Kareem Hunt's going to be getting those targets out of the backfield. We actually look at 2019, where he came back. He only played half the season, so it's a little bit of a smaller sample size. But he actually averages 5.5 targets per game. And in 2020, he comes down. He slightly drops in that. But I think more so, we should expect something to be kind of in the middle here, where he averages about 3.2 targets per game. So I think this year, maybe we can expect something closer to about 4 targets a game. And at the same time, he's playing behind an elite offensive line. He himself, I'd make an argument, is a top 12 running back in terms of pure talent in the NFL. So if we ever had a chance to see Kareem Hunt for a significant amount of time without Nick Chubb, this is a top 10 running back. Don't talk to me about the small sample last year, because in that small sample, he was used as a workhorse. And in that small sample, Kareem Hunt was dealing with a nagging injury on his own right. You have to remember, both running backs in Cleveland were hurt last year. Kareem Hunt played through it. Nick Chubb couldn't. So don't judge Kareem Hunt based on that small sample, because we have years of data showing that Kareem Hunt can be a top 5 running back in upside. He has that upside, and he's running behind the best offensive line in football. So there's no reason to think that Kareem Hunt couldn't get there. Okay, so now our last running back, we are going to have Darrell Henderson at 24. Now, I'm kind of stressing to get this video out in time because I'm afraid by the time we get this video out, a new running back is going to Los Angeles. So maybe what I'm saying here is going to sound dumb. But anyway, with Henderson, if we get to the start of the year, if we get to about week 3 of the preseason, and there have been No running backs added that are significant in Los Angeles. He is going to 100% rise in these rankings. There's no way around that. He has to jump Kareem Hunt easily. He has to jump Javontae Williams easily. He has to jump Travis Etienne. He has to jump Josh Jacobs. He has to jump Miles Sanders. I think that he jumps all the way up into being the Chris Carson, the David Montgomery range. I mean, he has that upside. So if you think that this team's not going to be bringing anybody in, then sure, go draft Darrell Henderson there. But my problem is I think that there's a very small chance that this team doesn't go out of their way and bring someone in for 2021. Now, I understand, yes, it looks like on paper that Darrell Henderson is going to see nearly every single touch for this backfield. Literally, Henderson is the only running back on this team that was not either drafted in the 7th round or was an undrafted free agent. So understanding the team investment into Henderson shows us that clearly you're expecting him to be a bell cow running back, not worried about Xavier Jones in the slightest. Don't try to tell me that story. So Henderson has the potential to be a bell cow and one of the best offenses. But at the same time, because there's nobody else to get touches in this offense, this team, I can guarantee you they're bringing in at the very minimum a depth running back. Now, if they bring in a Todd Gurley, if they bring in an Adrian Peterson, if they bring in any of the veteran washed up running backs like a Le'Veon Bell, then I'm not going to be worried about Henderson. We are actually going to end up moving him up slightly in our rankings because at that point we can say, okay, he's clearly going to be someone seeing the majority of the touches in his committee. But now if they go out and they trade for someone, that is where it could get really iffy because we know that this is a team that they have traded for veterans aggressively season after season after season after season with Sean McVay being there. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Mason, they don't have any more picks to trade. They just traded 2 first-round picks for Matthew Stafford. But what I'm telling y'all is, I'm telling you, running backs in the NFL, that's not their asking price whatsoever. This team could realistically bring in Melvin Gordon. If they were willing to pay the Melvin Gordon contract, they could probably trade for Melvin Gordon for a 4th-round pick. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's literally, if you look at the running back market, that's what they go for. Maybe they trade for a James Robinson. I mean, where are you drafting James Robinson if this team trades for him? How far down does Darrell Henderson have to fall? So I think for the time being, we're going to have Henderson here. If they bring in just a backup running back like a Le'Veon Bell and Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore, anybody in that arc, then Henderson rises slightly. But I think this is a nice middle ground for us to say, well, maybe they do trade for someone. So let's not be too aggressive where we are ranking him yet because there's no way this depth chart is settled. Now, thank you, my dudes. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. And of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really hope I see y'all with our next video. And yeah, that's all I got for you, my dudes, and have a great day. We have had the craziest amount of support over on Patreon. Thank you, Colby, Ryan, Spencer, Seb, It's Easy, David, Justin, Christian, Tyler, and Robert. Thank you.